Hello, and welcome to the Let Them Live podcast. I'm Emily Burning, your host, and also the president and co-founder of Let Them Live. We bring you interviews with unsung heroes and inspiring individuals who are in the fight to save babies, mothers, and fathers from abortion. Our goal is to amplify their voices and bring their stories to the forefront, shedding light on the incredible work they do and the lives they touch. This is more than just a podcast. It's a platform that allows everyone to share their pro-life stories and inspire us to passionately continue advocating for life. All right, so today we have Alli Barrett, who is Let Them Live's Triage coordinator, and we are so excited to be asking her some questions about her job and just kind of a behind-the-scenes look at what she does. Welcome, Alli.
Thanks, Emily, for having me.
Of course. So why don't you go ahead and just start off and tell me a little bit about your story and some of the things that led you to, be pro-life and obviously to become, a pregnancy counselor and triage specialist at Let Them Live.
Yeah, so I'm going to try to be kind of concise as possible because that's a long story in itself. But so I actually used to be pro-choice. I went with the slogans and the motto of the culture. And when I was younger, and I started to want to really hone in on my pro-choice stance and be like, why do I really believe what I believe? And in finding that, or in trying to solidify my pro-choice stance, I actually became pro-life, ironically. So I just saw how the thing that really got me to rethink my position was the behavior of the pro-choice people, and how whenever they were challenged with their views, they couldn't stand on anything. They just had angry reactions, and they just repeated the slogans of in the mottos of the culture, my body, my choice, no uterus, no opinion, stuff like that. And I was just that's not logical. That's just not how you should defend your side at all, especially with anger and cursing and whatever else, hateful action. And so the people that were pro-life had statistics and science that backed them and all this stuff. And that's what really intrigued me, because I like to be a logical person. So I started looking at more pro-life things and what the pro-lifers were saying, and that's how I became pro-life. So long story short, but yeah.
No, I mean, that's a great story. And I think that we hear a lot of that. We hear a lot of people who were pro-choice that became pro-life because just the logical inconsistencies. And so at what point did then your pro-life belief turn into okay, I have to do something about it?
Yeah, so that was a God thing. So whenever I started to move to pro-life, I actually wasn't a Christian. I was just solidifying that before Christianity. And then once I was saved, I was actually at a prayer meeting, and God told me, he had given me a few visions about, and a dream that was horrific about abortion. And it really shook me up and stuck with me. And I was but I've never experienced that. So I was why is this happening? Why am I having these things? And so I was at a prayer meeting, and God said that I needed to pray against abortion. So I started praying against abortion. And then the same day I went into work, and then I saw on the news that was the day that the heartbeat bill in Texas got passed. And I had no idea. I was very out of the political realm at that time. So I was that's really crazy. And so I had found Let Them Live, I think a little bit before or on that day. I can't quite remember. I think it was before that day, and I had donated to you guys a little bit here and there. And then I saw an influencer say it's great that all these pro-life bills are getting passed, but now we have to put the boots on the ground, do the work. It's the work is just beginning for us. And I was wow, that's really true. And the same week I saw Let Them Live was looking for pregnancy counselors, and I always was the go-to person for in my friend group growing up and stuff that was counseling people. So I was I can do that. And so I applied to be a volunteer, and then I met with the director at the time, and then the next day I started training. So it was very quick that it happened.
Well, when it's meant to happen, it happens. And I wanted to point out too, it's so amazing. I would say 99% of the people that work for or volunteer with Let Them Live were first donors to Let Them Live, which is super cool because that shows that you really believe in the mission. You're willing to give of your own money. And then it's just kind of funny because so many people just kind of get roped in, because how could you not? The work is just so amazing. It speaks for itself, but it just shows how how much, we try to involve our donors and to actually get involved because we're growing so fast. I mean, you know that, Allie. You've grown from, you went from a volunteer and then like tell me the progression of that. So you started as a volunteer and then obviously you got hired on at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. So I started as a volunteer. I think it was like late September, first week of October in 2021, I believe. And I just remember like God put on my heart. He was like, you need to do this with excellence. And I was like, okay, bet. So I just did everything with that posture. And even though it's really scary, like it's really intimidating. Maybe not scary is the right word, but nerve wracking. It's really intimidating to talk to a woman for the first time that's considering abortion. Yeah, it's just really tough. But I will say the majority of the women do choose life, which is awesome. Yeah, and so I started volunteering in October 2021, and then I got brought on part-time as a counselor in January. And then it was on April Fool's, they asked me to be full-time on April 1st of 2022. And I was like, is this an April Fool's joke? Yeah, and they were like, no, it's not. So I was like, okay. So that was great. So, and I was still a full-time pregnancy counselor, but then very shortly after, I got brought on to be a full-time pregnancy counselor. Nathan had the idea of like the triage team. I guess since I was like in the management position, I started spearheading that with a few other of the leaders in the counseling department. And then they were like, you're a very black and white person, so you are in charge of this. And I was like, okay, great. And so now I have a team that's also growing as we do underneath me, and they are just awesome, and they are doing so like an amazing job. They're doing better than I would have done in the position. So.
I'm so lucky to have you too, because you're such a good leader and you just have so much love and passion for it. I mean, and that's what Nathan and I have been so excited about our team and watching our team grow. It's Let Them Live started with us being like so passionate that we literally gave everything we had. So to see other people have that same passion is really amazing. And I also want to touch on, the whole triage concept, which is new to the pro-life movement. It's not new in, the sense of the world, but the whole triage idea. So Nathan's dad is a doctor. And so, Nathan grew up, hearing like medical terms all the time and learned about triaging. So, the idea is like, when someone goes into the emergency room, if someone's like got a head wound or someone like broke their ankle, they're going to take care of the person that has the head wound first, because they're basically saying, okay, what is more of an emergency? What is more life threatening? We have to take the more life threatening cases first. And then, Nathan and I in conversations were like, well, hang on, this kind of applies to Let Them Live, because, we could just take every single mom that comes to us, but the reality is we just don't have the resources or the money to be able to do that. And so we have to streamline and triage those life-threatening cases. And those are the cases where, women have those abortions scheduled and they are like dead set on that. So for anyone listening, that's like where that came from. So in light of that, Allie, why don't you give me your like sound bite of what that looks like, when a mom comes in, like, kind of what your job is essentially.
So my team is like the front line of the moms that come in to Let Them Live. So every single mom that comes into us that is abortion minded or abortion determined, or, abortion determined being having an abortion scheduled, then they are assigned to the mom's case. And then they reach out to the mom via text and say, hey, I'm so-and-so from Let Them Live. I'm so sorry to hear about you're going through, X, Y, and Z. I would love to talk with you further and see how we can best help you. Are you open to a call like today or tomorrow? And then they schedule a call pretty quickly. Within like the same like 24 hours that the mom reaches out, we try to be as efficient and as quick as possible. Even if the mom doesn't have an abortion scheduled, it's like these women are in dire situations sometimes and they really just need somebody to talk to. So then they schedule a call with them, and then they assess their abortion mindedness through that call and abortion determination. And then they type up their notes, and then I read them and make sure, this mom is exactly kind of like on the same line of what the triage specialist assessed. And then just to make sure there's like that safety net there. And then we have our other safety net, which is our pregnancy counselors. And then they further dive into the counseling session of it. We do take kind of, like I said earlier, it's more of like a black and white call, but we do like counseling on that call too, like, where we have to stabilize the mom in a way, she could be very emotional, or she could just be very black and white. I like a lot of the moms with abortions scheduled are actually very black and white. They're like, this is my circumstance. I just financially cannot afford this baby. And that's why I scheduled the call. So or the abortion. So
Probably ask a lot of questions on that call too to get an idea of what's going on. So, are there like, okay, on that first call, because this is like the mom's first contact with Let Them Live, like, are there certain things that you guys try to tell every mom? What's the reassurance that you guys give them? What are some of the main things that you're trying to get a handle on?
yeah, no, that's a really good question. So I always tell my team, like give like that mom support and encouragement and like reassurance. And these moms face so much stuff and so much pressure. And so I'm like, you really have to combat that and give them that just like boost of confidence that they really need at that time. Because they could have like the father of the child pressuring them to get the abortion. And then they really feel like that takes the winds out of a mom's sail if the father is not on the same page. And like it could turn like an excited mom to an abortion determined mom, like just like that. Like she found out by herself that she was pregnant. She was excited, told the father, and he's not. And so she could schedule abortion solely based off of his reaction. So we have to kind of be that mirror for that mom, actually, where we kind of reflect what she says back to, like says to us back to her and be like, hey, like it really sounds like you want this baby, but just because like the father doesn't, it changed your mind. Like it doesn't have to be that way. Like I know it's not ideal. I know it's not like the Hallmark movie type of situation, but you love your child, and like your child is so blessed to have you and fortunate to have you as their mom, and so we kind of just do like that reflection there too. And each mom is so different. I feel like every call is so different, so I really try to structure it to the mom. Sometimes moms just need like encouragement and support. Other moms are very like logical and factual, and you can like break down like the statistics of like post-abortive women or what will happen during the abortion, and then like they won't get an abortion based off of that. It could go so many ways.
Talk about on the job training, right? This is the funny thing. There's no way, and this applies to like pretty much every job in Let Them Live, including mine. Like there's no like one like set training that can prepare you for every single situation. Like because they're all so different, and like you just never know, where the mom is at. And something else that you touched on that I think is super important to dive into is the impact of the father of the baby and like the family or the friends, because these moms are coming to us and we might be that only voice that's like encouraging them because there's so much pressure. How, like, if you were just to ballpark, like, I'm not going to go and check to make sure you're right, but like if you were to give me like a percentage of moms that come in and the father of the baby is like pressuring them, like what do you think that would be?
I would say like 75 to 85%. It's
Ooh.
it's really high. Yeah. And I would say like maybe even like 10% all the pressure. Like there's not one person in their life telling them that they can do this. Like a lot of the moms are like, we are the only voice telling them that they can't do it. And so that's really tough for those. You really have to get some like solid encouragement there and cheerleading for that mom because yeah, it's really tough when you're the only.
It just shows too that it's not always, oh, yep, you just need financial help. Okay, we'll pay your bills, case closed. There's a lot of other like factors that are layered on top. It could be domestic violence, it could be those pressures, it could be the father of the baby saying, well, if you don't have this abortion, I'm kicking you out, which then causes financial problems.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen pretty much
Everything.
every single situation. Like there are situations that I've seen that I would never thought I would see before, and they're heartbreaking. We've also had some really weird situations that are just odd. I don't know, like there's been pretty much everything. So you guys see a lot. And along those lines, because you guys are kind of taking in all of the emotions and everything these moms are feeling, does that ever take like an emotional or mental toll on you guys? Like tell me more about that and how you get through that.
Yeah, definitely. So this has actually been like a topic inside the counseling department for like the past like 2 weeks. Everyone's like, how do I delegate or like block these emotions and stuff? And this was kind of like my weak spot when I was a counselor. Whenever like a mom, because like we're like part of the solution seeking for the mom, like we work as a team to problem solve these like very tangible things that they need, like a job or a place to live or things like that. It's not always like emotional counseling. So for me, that like I could emotional counsel like all day, but for me, like the material things were really hard for me. And that's what like some moms really need. Some moms are on the brink of homelessness. I had a mom that every door was shut for her. Like every single door was shut for her. There was like no opportunity that we like could grab a hold of. And it was so difficult. And that really took an emotional toll on me because I felt like I was failing. But at the end of the day, like she could have done a few more things too. Like the moms are also responsible for themselves. So I think like it's refreshing as a counselor to remind you of that. It's like I'm not the sole hero here. Like I can't do everything. I can't do the heavy lifting. And there's those boundaries where it's like we're responsible to and for people, and we can only help so much. And at the end of the day, the mom also has to take the steps to do it, especially since like we counsel remotely and work remotely with the moms. It's like we can't physically hold their hand and make them do this and that. And even if like you are there in physical person, then you still can't do that. But it
Yeah.
is a lot tougher.
When it takes a really special person, I'm very appreciative of you and all of the counseling team because, when we started Let Them Live, Nathan and I both counseled the moms. And I will say, like, I am not a counselor. Like, I did it out of necessity. I did it out of like, because I knew that I had to, but I also did have like, I think I did have the emotional bandwidth because that's what God gave me back then. But I have a tendency to like just take on people's emotions and then
Yeah.
it actually kind of like sends me into a spiral. And so that's why I'm like always consistently so grateful for the counseling team because you guys have a way of like you said, you could emotional counsel all day. And I'm like, how? I don't know. But that's because you're literally made for this. So how do you like, let's say you have like a really tough day, like give me some like tips that you do to just like unwind, to kind of separate, to make sure that like you are also like living your life too.
Yeah, I honestly think having outside activities of Let Them Live helps me have those like stronger boundaries because it's like on like Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I absolutely cannot do Let Them Live work. Of course, if there's like a crisis, then I'll like abandon everything and be there. But like it just helps to have outside activities of that. And on like really hard days, it does take, where I don't have activities or anything to like, take my mind off it or anything. It really does take, it's like, okay, I have to like put my phone away to like turn on music. I have to do something else and just like I like to like clean my space and just tidy and things like that. Yeah, yeah, just like unwind, turn on music and just or a podcast actually. I love listening. My roommate one time I took a bath and she was like, "Did you listen to music to like unwind?" I was like, "No, I listened to a podcast about like theological things," and I was like in heaven.
I love that though. Like it is hard though, especially working from home. I will say, like I think all of us at Let Them Live probably struggle with this in some way. Hopefully, I won't as much anymore since we just got an office space. But like working from home is especially difficult because trying to set those boundaries is like those physical boundaries is a lot more difficult. So it's good that you found some ways to separate because it's like the airline flight attendants say, like, you have to put your mask on first before you help anyone else. That really applies to this work as well. Like, if you haven't charged your batteries, how can you give 100%? And that's something that I think every single person at Let Them Live has experienced in some way. Awesome. Okay, so this is one, and I'm not sure I'm glad that you saw these questions before, so you had time to think about it because this is a difficult question, at least for me. Is there one particular mom that you've counseled that like stands out to you or just has like left a really big imprint? You say it's hard because whenever someone asks me this, I'm like, do you have about 2 hours? Because there's so many. But yeah, do you have like one that really just stands out to you?
Can I have two?
Yeah, you can have two.
Yeah, I saw that question. I was like, man, there's actually kind of three. We're
You're
growing
like,
now.
can I have 200?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Adjacent. Yeah. No, the first two moms actually that I ever counseled are like the ones that stand out to me. Like the first one was just so grateful. Like every day, like we would text like almost every day. And she would just always tell me how appreciative and grateful she was. She did the work, she put the work in, and she was just like in such a better place after like mentally after we finished and after she had her baby and everything like that. I actually got to go see her and her baby like 2 weeks after her baby boy was born. So that was really cool. That was like my first like Let Them Live mom I got to see in person. And I learned so much more about her whenever I went there. And like we talked a lot. Like we got into like the nitty gritty of things. And she had like all these paintings in her house. I was like, did you do these? And she was like, yeah. I was like, how have you never told me that you painted? And then she also owned like a horse and all this stuff and like had rode horses and she was like a little girl. I was like, you never told me this. Like, how did you not tell me this? She's like, I don't know. And then the second mom I counseled, Wait, no, she was the second mom, and then the first mom I counseled, she was younger, and she immediately, like, once, like, she was, like, financially assisted, she immediately did, like, a 180, and I remember asking her on her, like, third, like, counseling call, I asked her, I don't know why I felt led to ask her this, I've never asked another Let the Mom this, I don't think, but I was like, "How has, like, your mindset changed from, like, when you first reached out to us to now?" And she, like, didn't even wanna talk about it, she's like, "I can't believe I ever considered abortion." And she was, like, 3 months into her pregnancy, 3 to 4 months at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, very, very early on, she did a 180, and she has the most adorable baby, like, ever. Like, he is so,
So
so
hard
cute.
to pick because
Yeah.
all the babies are like so
Yeah.
cute.
I said that recently in our Discord. I was like, "How do we have all, like, the most beautiful babies?" Like, I'm really not like, I'm biased, but, like, also at the same time, it's also, like, objective. Like, it's
These babies, and it's crazy too because I used to know like every single baby that was going to be born or was born, and now I'm just seeing babies pop up all over the place. And I'm just saying, like, I think there's just, because they were almost not here and now they are, there's just like a little extra sprinkle of cuteness because they are the cutest, most beautiful babies. But that's really amazing that you got to experience not only being in person, because I think that kind of like tattoos your heart in a way where you are just forever affected by that, and holding a baby, and but then also seeing the transformation in the lives of the moms. And that's what I really want to emphasize too, because so many people come after pro-lifers for being just about the baby, but really a huge victory for Let Them Live, our pregnancy counselors, for me, is seeing moms do a complete 180 with their life and feeling so proud of them, and seeing that transformation. Because not only does that mean that we did our job, which is amazing, but that now, any generational problems can actually be like cut and severed.
definitely. Yeah, definitely. And, yeah, it was really surreal to hold that baby, and it was really cool too because the first moms, those 2 moms, they gave birth on, like, the same day, and it was like, one, it was planned because she had to have a C-section, the other one just, like, texted me, I was like, "You need to tell me you were in labor." We were at, like, the Let the Live retreat, and I had, like, 2 babies born, I was like, "Oh my gosh."
See, that's like the best thing. You're like double the gifts. I mean, and today, actually, as we're recording this, no, not today, it was yesterday. I just got pictures today, but yesterday was a Let Them Live baby's first birthday, and the pictures are so cute. And I really can't believe that they're, these babies too. Like, we have babies that just turned 3. Like, they
Yeah.
are full grown toddlers, like 3 going on 30 for some of them. But some of them are so sassy, but it is just absolutely wild. And, it's amazing to see them through these different parts of their life, and to see the moms grow along with their babies. But, my next question is, if there's any moms that are, in a crisis pregnancy right now that are listening to this podcast, what would you tell them?
There's 2 things. One is that you are not alone, and what you are feeling, I feel like if you just found out that you were pregnant, there's, like, that initial shock, I think, for any mom and or any woman that finds out that they're pregnant, and, that's I think that's normal and it's okay, and if you have no person in your sphere that's supporting you, you have our support. There are so many pro-life people that don't want you just to, like, get an abortion and that's like it. Like that doesn't solve any of your problems. Like you have like the pro-life community with like pregnancy resource centers. I would say like 80% of our moms have never heard of a pregnancy resource center. So you have pregnancy resource centers, they have material aid, they have counseling, they have in-person support, and then you have also our support, and you are not alone and you are more than capable. I think moms that even have like 3 kids will tell you that they're not ready to be moms. Like there's just like there's like no like perfect timing, but you have this baby for a reason and for a purpose, and you can so do it. And your children are like your legacy, and they leave like such a huge imprint on you, and there's so much joy in that, and in the motherhood that isn't talked about or has been like distorted in a way. And then also if you need help from Let Them Live, like we're real. Like we are real, like we will help you, we will support you. We're not like anything. I get a lot of moms lately where they're like, "Are you real?" I'm like, "Yes, like we are like the real deal. Like we will help you. Like we're not here for anything else."
Yeah,
Except
the
you.
first Let Them Live mom that Nathan and I helped, we didn't know she was a Let Them Live mom because we hadn't even started our program, but she was like, I doubt this is legit. Like, this is a scam, and then we like sent her everything in our bank account. Like, she's like, oh, okay, actually, okay, you guys are real. So we
Right.
are for real. And, any moms that are listening, we also have moms and women that have been through our program that are also really happy to talk to you about, their experience and just reassure you that this support is real. I know it seems too good to be true, which is sad to me because this type of support should be way more common, but that we're here. We're here. We're real.
Yeah, here.
And I have one more question for you, Alli, and then we'll kind of close out on this. But you've been in your position for quite a while. I always lose track of time. It's been over a year, right? Yeah, I'm like, if I'm doing the math
Oh,
right.
yeah, oh, yeah.
Not like just like in counseling, I guess.
Oh, yeah, over a year in counseling for sure.
But what would be the advice that you give to other people who are either currently pregnancy counseling or are considering it or considering joining Let Them Live to do pregnancy counseling? They're kind of teetering, not too sure. Like, what would be your advice to them?
Yeah, I feel like if you are considering pregnancy counseling and you have this like huge tug on your heart, like do it. Because like there's like women that you will impact that you will be that like for like you will change each other forever. Like you will have like the mom will impact you and then you will impact that mom too. And then you could have like a beautiful friendship from that relationship. And like you can just be used in such an amazing way. It is challenging. It's not easy, but it is beyond worth it. It's literally like life giving. I think Holly always says that. I love that because it's so true in two ways. And then if you are currently like pregnancy counseling and in like the pro life fight and movement, like don't give up, like keep going. I know the work is like really heavy and like what we do is just heavy. It's life or death literally. And so I know that that can bear a weight on people, but know that like you are making an impact even on like the really hard days because something that God told me whenever I was about to start volunteering, he told me like you will not save every baby. And so at the end of the day, it's like we can fight and you can say all the right things to a mom, and at the end of the day it still is up to her. It's in her hands. And sometimes if a mom is really just like that definition of abortion determined, like there was literally nothing that you can do. I remember I had one call with a mom was like the definition of abortion determined, and I could have promised her everything under the world and nothing would have changed her mind. I tried to promise her everything in the world and nothing changed her mind. So there are really those women that are just set in that. And yeah, just keep up the fight and learn from any mistakes you feel like you may have made and just do better the next day and don't give up.
Yeah, that's really great advice. Thank you so much, Alli. Thanks for all your words of wisdom and for sharing. And I really appreciate you doing this and being our first podcast interview. And just really, really grateful to have you on the Let Them Live team.
Yeah, it's an honor, Emily, as always. So thank you so much.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Let Them Live podcast. I would like to give a special shout out to Patrick at Moon Shadow Studios for doing such an amazing job of editing our podcasts. Let Them Live is a Christian nonprofit dedicated to supporting women who are considering abortion primarily due to financial burden. 73% of women have abortions because of financial struggles, and we're here to bridge that gap. Our goal is to provide the emotional and financial support women need to feel empowered to choose life. If our cause resonates with you and you're interested in learning more, getting involved, or making a donation, please visit our website at www.letthemlive.org. One amazing way to contribute is by joining our Heartbeat Club, where you can become a monthly donor, and your ongoing support will ensure we can continue helping women every single month. You can also follow us on social media to stay up to date with all the amazing stories and ways that you can be part of our mission. We are on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and Twitter. Just search for @LetThemLiveOrg, and you can also find me on Instagram @EmilyBurning. Thank you once again for joining, and please join us for more upcoming inspiring stories and conversations.
This episode of the Let Them Live podcast was produced for you by Moon Shadow Studios. Put your podcast in good hands today and take advantage of our special first-time client discounts by visiting moonshadowstudios.biz or by following us on Instagram and Twitter @Moonshadow Studios.